Karama has been in the news and on YouTube screens all over the country for its youth crime problem. The electorate is held by Labor's Nari Kit and is being contested again for the CLP by Brian O'Gallagher. Former City of Darwin councillor Justine Glover launched her campaign at Robin Leslie Park in Karama yesterday afternoon. I spoke to her straight after her speech.
I'm Justine Glover, independent for Karama.
Justine, we're standing in the shade of the banana trees at the Karama Community Garden. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. There's a nice breeze happening, but things are not okay. That was sort of the theme of your speech. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that crime is just rampant through Karama Malak. What we're seeing is that, this park just goes off at night. The Karama Shopping Centre goes off. People are locking themselves behind barbed wire, high fences, and they're scared. And what we're hearing is more and more property crime, home invasions, and, police taking 6, 10 hours, 12 hours to turn up. It's not okay.
You've raised 2 kids in Karama. You talked about a time when Karama didn't have high fences, when people weren't afraid. What's changed? What can you do to turn that around?
So that was the late 90s when we first moved in Karama in 1998 and to about 2013. And then there was this real flip, around 2014, 15, and we're just seeing that it's been snowballing ever since then. Why is it happening? I think if we knew, we'd be able to stop it. It's just there are so many complex issues. And, one people are saying, now in Alice Springs, there's this highlight on the, enormous poverty and disadvantage in those communities. Well, it's being reflected in Karama and Malak too, because a lot of homeless people come here into Robin Leslie Park. It's sort of a hot spot, it's a place where they feel comfortable too, but it's causing a lot of antisocial behaviour and fear. And what can we do? I think there are just so many things we have to do. We have to be focusing on the community. We needed to make communities a safe place for people to live in rather than coming into Darwin and, and the level of intergenerational trauma. I mean, these families are living with suicide, ongoing death, murders. It's stuff that, I can't imagine having to live with, but we need to recognise that it's happening and we need to be putting in programs to keep families safer, to, take away the stress, acknowledge the trauma and provide support, I believe.
What about poverty? You've mentioned that a couple of times in your speech. It's not talked about very much in Northern Territory politics, but there is a massive divide in this society, isn't there, between people who have a lot of money, people who own their real estate and people who don't?
I remember not so long ago hearing that Darwin, Northern Territory, we have the richest of the rich and we have the poorest of the poor, and that's nothing to be proud of. And I think as a community we need to recognise this, but as I said in my speech, education. It's the way that we can give kids hope and to get them in at an early stage and, supporting kids in early education. It is just so complex because, we can support kids in early education, but if they have been subject to domestic violence in utero, if their mother, when they were pregnant, has been subject to domestic violence, that kid has so many challenges when they're first born. So we have to stop violence in the community. It's not okay. Families should be able to live in a safe environment and kids should be able to grow up in a safe environment. But the other thing is overcrowding. I was talking to a remote area nurse. I mean, these families are having to live with 20 people in one house. I mean, there's no hardware in that house. There's like one mattress for 10 people to sleep on. So it's little children sleeping with their uncles and their aunties. And it is just the wrong environment for kids to grow up, and we are creating this next generation of these kids that just are going to struggle to survive in our society. And it's not their fault, and they're going to, we're going to be the ones that have to look after them. So, I think we need to turn it around. We have to start really caring about these kids and these families and supporting them and making better homes for them to grow up in.
Justine, the Defence Housing Association projects, the one at Lee Point that you've been very fierce arguing against, it doesn't include public housing. What do you think needs to happen? There are many suburbs around Darwin where public housing is part of the community. How do we ensure that that's part of future development of Darwin?
Well, I just thought it was part of the policy that all suburbs, all new development had to have a certain level of social housing and community housing. And it's just not fair that defence housing can exclude needy people, or provide affordable housing. It's just like it's only housing for the privileged.
What about small and medium enterprises? Are they getting the rough end of the pineapple from the NT government?
I think definitely. What I'm hearing is they're not getting the ear of government. Government is just listening to the lobbyists, all the big developers that are going into middle arm. And it's the small businesses, like you hear about the restaurants, the service station, who are just week after week getting broken into. And, they're just getting broken. And these are the services that we need. I mean, if we don't have service stations, it's nice having restaurants, GPs, other services, they'll just shut down and leave. So we need to look after them.
What about the major party candidates? They're running the same candidates as last time. So Nari Kit's the sitting member. You've got Brian O'Gallagher for the CLP. Why are you running against those two candidates?
I wouldn't say I'm running against them. I'm giving the community a choice. And so I'm giving Karama the choice of voting independents, because what I'm hearing, people are sick of Labor and they don't trust the Liberals. So there is another option, vote independent.
This community garden, which you've been heavily involved with, was nothing 4 years ago. What possible message could that have for what could happen in Karama and Malak and this electorate?
So I think the Karama Community Garden is a great example of what a community can do when it comes together and has a big dream, because Robin Leslie Park used to be known as Scary Park, and we wanted to flip that, and that's why we built this Karama Community Garden, to activate it, to really build something when people can come together. And over 4 years, we've created a brilliant community, and it is just, it is so magical. Like, people will drop in and people become friends and people learn things and they watch the garden grow. And it's even the people who walk around it every day, it gives them great joy just to see it grow and just make it a better place. And so we can do it. And this is an example of what we can do right across Karama and Malak.
You've been involved with a lot of boards. You've got a long professional history working in health. What would you contribute to the Northern Territory Parliament?
So I have a very strong history in leadership, good governance, accountability and integrity. I believe in listening to the people, doing the right thing and planning for the future.
Justine Glover, thanks for talking to ABC Darwin.
Thank you.
That was Justine Glover launching her campaign for the seat of Karama. She's running against Nari Arkit, who's the sitting member for Labor, and Brian O'Gallagher from the CLP. I'm guessing there are about between 40 and 50 people at the campaign launch yesterday afternoon. Could be quite a few independents running in this year's election.